Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much for having me here today. You heard a little bit about some of my outdoor adventures, and you know I'm also an author. My book's called On the Edge. But the reason I wrote the book is because so many of the great lessons I learned in the mountains really helped me in the business world and helped me overcome some of life's mountains in general. So what I thought I'd do in the time we have together is share with you guys some of my favorite lessons from the book, focusing on the American Women's Everest expeditions. All right, networking, building relationships, forming partnerships. This is one of the most critical parts of successful climbing. I think it's also the most overlooked because people who know you are, of course, much more likely to go out of their way for you and potentially take on a large amount of personal risk for you, right? If you have a good relationship in place. So put the time and effort into networking. You never know when it's going to pay off. Fear is okay. Fear is okay, you guys. It's just a normal human emotion. Complacency is what will kill you. Don't ever beat yourself up for feeling scared or intimidated. I think fear is actually a good tool. I use fear to my advantage. Fear keeps me awake, alert, aware of everything going on around me, so fear is fine. Complacency will absolutely do you in. You have to be able to act and react quickly when you're in these environments that are constantly shifting and changing. Backing up is not the same as backing down. For whatever reason, we tend to think that progress has to happen in one particular direction. But that's not the case. Sometimes you are going to have to go backwards for a bit in order to eventually get to where you want to be. So don't look at that backtracking as losing ground in any way. Look at it as an opportunity to regroup, regain some strength, so you're better out of the gates the next time around. As a leader, you can never expect the people on your team to be willing to endure anything that you are not willing to endure. Even when you feel like absolute hell, you still have to get out there and do your job, right? And every member of a team is in a leadership position. Leadership is not about title or tenure or how many people report to you or how big of a budget you oversee. Leadership's about realizing that every single person on a team has the responsibility to help the team move toward a goal. And everybody also has the responsibility to be looking out for one another. But the key to surviving this is that you have to be able to take action based on the situation at the time and not based on some plan. Because whatever plan you came up with last year, last month, last week, even that morning, your plan is outdated as soon as it's finished when you're in these environments that are constantly shifting and changing. So forget about being hell-bent on sticking to your plan. You have to be much more focused on executing based on what is going on at the time. Trust me when I tell you that turning around and walking away from the deal is harder than continuing on. But when you're up there in these mountains, you have to be able to make very tough decisions when the conditions around you are far from perfect. And you have to think about how every single move you make is going to affect everybody else around you and not just you. So it doesn't matter how much blood, sweat, and tears you personally put into something. If the conditions aren't right, you turn around, you cut your losses, and you walk away. But what you have to remember is that even when things feel calm, there's still risk. And the climb is not over until you walk in the front door of your house. When you're going to really push yourselves hard, get out of your comfort zone, and set your goals really, really high, things that feel like it's going to be a huge stretch, you're going to have to give yourselves and your teams the freedom to fail. As long as you come back from it better the next time around, failure can be a pretty incredible learning experience. And you also never know who is going to follow in your footsteps, who may be able to achieve more because you had the courage to fail first. So sometimes things are going to go your way. Sometimes things are not going to go your way. That is part of climbing. That is part of business. That's just part of life. But you have to be willing to get out there and push yourself on these peaks day after day. And you have got to be able to weather the storms if you're ever going to have an opportunity to enjoy this kind of view. And you don't have to be the best, fastest, most skilled climber to get to the top of this mountain. You just have to be absolutely relentless about putting one foot in front of the other. And I know I did my absolute best when I stood on the summit of Mount Everest on May 24th of 2010, but I also know that there are always going to be more mountains in my future. So tomorrow and every day thereafter, I have to be even better. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason.